Hey, and welcome to Ride Drive, and today we're checking out the Ducati Panigale V2. The Panigale V2 replaced the 959 Panigale in Ducati's lineup in 2020. The styling was updated to look more in line with the larger Panigale V4. Updated electronics and a Euro 5 compliant powertrain mean the changes go deeper than just the name. Today we're spending time with a trio of V2s, including the range-topping Bayliss edition, and pricing starts at $18,795 and tops out over $22,000 for the Bayliss edition. Most internet riders and street batistas will have you believe anything short of 1,000 cc's or 200 horsepower isn't worth having and isn't designed for serious riders. But I happen to believe the Panigale V2 falls in the sweet spot of sport bike perfection. Its 955cc V2 makes plenty of power and torque and goes well with the chassis that allows amateurs to exploit more of its limits, fitting perfectly between a typical 600 sport bike and the crop of overachieving superbikes. There aren't many options in this class, with the outdated Suzuki GSXR 750 and the expensive MV F3 being the closest competition. The Panigale V2 makes a strong case for being the best middleweight sport bike on the market. Look at the V2 and you have no doubt it's a Ducati sport bike. Take it to a Cars and Coffee and it will grab plenty of attention even when competing with something as awesome as a revving Miata. The lights are set deep into the front aero, giving it an ultra-aggressive look similar to the larger V4. The fairings have aggressive cutouts and the white Rosso adds red accents. Similar to the outgoing 959, the exhaust piping is visible in the lower fairing. The tail end also receives some aggressive cutouts. The overall style of the bike is quintessential Ducati and beautiful from most all angles. Besides color, there aren't many options except a few accessories, meaning all versions of this bike are well equipped. The brakes and suspension are high quality with Brembo dual radial mounted 4-piston calipers and 325mm disc up front, and a single 245mm disc and 2-piston Brembo caliper in the rear. The 43mm Showa front fork is fully adjustable, and so is the Sachs monoshock in the rear. The V2 does share the same frame as the 959, which means the rear shock remains horizontally mounted. Opting to go with the Bayliss edition adds fully adjustable Öhlins suspension front and rear, and a livery honoring Troy Bayliss's multiple World Superbike wins with Ducati. The Bayliss edition also has a lightweight battery, helping lower total weight by 6.5 pounds. The seat height for the V2 is 33.1 inches and 32.9 inches for the Bayliss. The displays on new Ducatis can tend to be somewhat busy, but it's very bright and provides plenty of information. The settings can be adjusted through the controls on the handlebars. Press the ignition and you get the familiar sounding Ducati twin. In the case of the V2, it's actually an L2 with 955 cc's of displacement. The engine makes a solid 155 horsepower at 10,750 RPM and 76.7 pound-feet of torque at 9,000 RPM. While these numbers don't smack you in the face during a time when plenty of bikes make over 200 horsepower, if you know what you're doing on the bike, there's more than enough power to have plenty of fun. The torque comes on strong at lower RPMs, and it's certainly fast enough to take on most anything you'll find on the road. But accelerating in a straight line has never been what I enjoyed about motorcycles. Lean the Ducati V2 in a few turns, and you start to realize what really makes this bike special. With just 441 pounds to throw around, the V2 is quite nimble. In the past, I tested the 959 Panigale, which this bike replaces, and the updates certainly make this bike feel more refined, while still retaining the ruggedness and visceral feelings associated with riding a Ducati. There's no doubt that you can find bikes that are more powerful and better performing than the Panigale V2 for the price, Most of the Japanese leader bikes would fall into that category. But Japanese leader bikes are a dime a dozen, and in the case of the Panigale V2, you are absolutely paying a brand premium. Is it worth it? I would argue it is. But that's a decision you have to make on your own. Is the Panigale V2 a great bike? Without question. As I mentioned before, I believe it sits in a sweet spot for sport bikes in terms of power and performance. So if you're in the market for a bike that will stand out in the crowd and offers a visceral experience while still remaining modern and accessible, the Ducati Panigale V2 just might be the bike for you. Thanks for watching, and thanks to Motorcycles of Charlotte for letting us spend some time with this bike. Be sure to subscribe if you enjoyed this video, leave a comment below, and you can also find us on Instagram at RideXDrive.